So, what have you failed at lately, and have you learned how to fail forward? We live in a world with a hustle culture that can easily turn into burnout, but we should never let a good crisis go to waste, right? Patty Franco breaks down what she learned from her experience and how she pivoted to stepping into a healthy space, but more importantly, how she can help you avoid burnout. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
No Victory Live is all about sharing stories to ignite and inspire victories. We are here on Wednesdays, and our first, third, and fifth Wednesdays, we go live at 11 a.m. New York time, and second and fourth Wednesdays at 9 p.m. New York time. And you can get all this information at sovictory.com/talk-show. Now, after the
Hi, Shannon. How are you? Hey, welcome everyone. It's So Victory Live. I'm coming to you from Cape Town, and Shannon is coming to you from.
I'm coming to you from Stamford, Connecticut, just outside New York City.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited. You know what? I think there's not a single one of us who have not at any point in our lives struggled with burnout. And I think, what Patty's going to share with us today is just so needed. I'm really looking forward to it. How about you?
Absolutely. Burnout and then the failures that help us push forward, but also learn from them as well as contribute to that burnout. So we have to learn how to deal with failure in a healthy way. And I'm very, very excited to hear Patty's story today, as well as learn from her how we can avoid that burnout that is always inevitable.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, she's got a special kind of experience that'll help people just step into their power and move from that burnout. I think she says something about going from surviving to thriving. And I think coming out of the pandemic, I don't know about you, but I think a lot of us just feel like, we're survival mode. Um, so yeah, shall we get her onto the show? I think you've got something about her bio, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to introduce Patty.
So let's see. I think we've got, oh, there we go. We've got her bio.
All right. So you all are looking at Patty's bio up here, but I'm going to talk a little bit about Patty. I've actually known Patty for several years. She is a very highly skilled, certified executive coach. She has over 25 years of experience. And I don't want to give too much of a spoiler alert about today's show, but she's going to be talking about prior to becoming a coach, how she ran a franchise and what she experienced with the burnout and the failures and what she learned from all of that and how she's now applying that in her coaching and helping others. So she takes all those lessons she's learned to fail forward, not fall down after failure. And she helps business leaders and corporate executives to go from surviving to thriving, just as Brigetti had mentioned. And she does this through several means. One is helping them discover their blind spots. And she also helps them take decisive actions toward their goals to avoid that burnout that we keep talking about over and over. And yes, Brigetti, absolutely. I think we're all feeling that burnout after COVID. It's really changed a lot of things in our lives and how we tackle our work and deal with burnout. And so we're excited to have Patty here today to talk about how she helps her clients love the push and have fun along the way. Who thought you could have failure, burnout, and fun all in the same sentence here? So I'm very excited to welcome Patty with us here today.
Patty, it's great to have you. Thanks for
Hi,
joining us.
Patty.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you. Excited to have you tell your story with us today. We have I mean, I've known you for a while and I haven't heard this portion of your story ever. So I'm very excited myself to hear this portion of your story. And I know you just as being a very inspirational person and someone who's great at mentoring people and coaching people and helping them. So I'm excited to not only hear this part of your story, but also hear more about your methodologies and your coaching and how you can help us and help our audience to avoid that burnout and fail forward as opposed to just falling down.
Yep, absolutely.
And this is also my favorite part of our show because, it reminds me of our show and tell days at school. It's still running and kids always get excited. And so this is kind of like that show and tell part of the show. And so I'm excited to see more of your story.
Thank you. Thank you.
So without further ado, we'll let Patty take it away.
Awesome. So I know, well, one of the things that most people are curious about is what had me make a big pivot in my career in terms of leaving my corporate career. So I spent the first 15 years of my career in the corporate world working for Fortune 500 companies, in healthcare, finance, all the big sectors. And I was in human resources and later on in training and development and leadership development. And it was really quite a very successful, thriving career. But I had burnout for the first time, at that point. I would say right around the 12, 13-year mark, I was really getting fatigued from all of the recession-related issues in the human resources world, having to help manage behind the scenes massive layoffs and, giving a lot of bad news really took its toll on me. So although I was at a very comfortable income level at that point, I had been relocated and promoted several times in several of my last two positions in-house. I also was facing a personal crisis in that both of my parents were aging and declining in their health at the same time. So I decided in 2006 I was at the time, I had relocated to Chicago and I came back to New York. I was working in, my last full-time position, and we were going through all the layoff processes, and there was just so much politics on top of all of the heaviness with the economy and then when my parents started showing signs of needing to be, in nursing homes and whatnot, I just decided to take a pause. So I left the corporate world so that I could attend to my family. I had also ironically met my husband at that time. And so I was literally building my new family life and got engaged and married in 2008. At the same time, my parents were sick and I was trying to help them out. So I decided to leave the corporate world and just take a pause, thinking, oh, I'll go back in a year or so. And I actually did interview and try out, different corporate jobs after they both had passed away, unfortunately. But nothing really stuck for me. Nothing really inspired me at that point. So when my husband and I were newly married, we had, we had a conversation about what would make the best use of my skills and my burning desire to, kind of take my skills and contribute to the world in a new way. So he went through a downsizing. He was in the banking industry at the time. And so we both were at a pivot point and we both decided to start doing something independently. So he started his consulting practice in the finance world. And at the same time, we started talking to a broker about franchise opportunities. And we thought at the time that would be the perfect scenario to use my people skills and HR background, combined with his finance acumen, and be independent owners and run a franchise. And we chose to look at franchises for me because on a few premises, which I'll talk about later, were premises that I probably should have further analyzed in some different ways. But franchising in this case meant for us a semi-absentee structure, meaning I wouldn't have to be there 40 hours a week. I wouldn't have to be the one running the franchise and doing all the operational stuff. I would be the general manager and we would have all of the infrastructure given to us. And so we saw the upside of being part of a franchise is that you get all the systems and the technology and the marketing tools and all of that good stuff done for you. It's just, online, you download it, you use it, you access it, and they also are there to advise you. So we went through the whole process of speaking to other owners across the tri-state, And we decided to be the first ones to open this wellness business in the Westchester, New York area. And basically I was the first, we were the first brand to open in this market, which in and of itself was a big challenge. So I went into this with the expectation that it would be a lot of work for the first year or two to get it up and running, get it to break even so that we could quickly turn to making a profit, and that I could work part-time while also having children. And so that was a tall order, and a big expectation, which turned out to be quite false. So the story here is that, I did get it to break even actually in less than 2 years' time, and proudly got it to profit within like 6 months after breaking even, which I was very proud of. And hired people. I had great staff. It was an amazing team of people. And we opened with, and I'm very proud to say, we had the most pre-booked appointments prior to opening than any other franchisee in the system. So, I started off on a very, very solid, sound note, in a very successful way. And then various business conditions kicked in and the realities kicked in. The first of which, the challenge was that the market conditions for staffing in this particular industry it was not known to me that there was a shortage of female therapists for this massage industry that we were in. And so trying to find quality, talented people who could then enable us to maximize our revenue so that, we could, because franchising in most cases is about volume. And that was one of the things I learned, very quickly. If you can't book up your schedule and, almost overbook your schedule to the point where you have a wait list in an industry like this, it's really hard to make a strong profit. So, we were barely getting by for, the first year or two with just making enough to cover payroll, which was half of the money that we made every month went out the door to payroll. And then we paid royalties on top of that. So, you really have to manage those margins very closely in all of the operating expenses. So we were very hard pressed to find the quality of talent. And then the second challenge was to pay them competitively so that they didn't go to our competitors. So that was very tricky. But I'm proud to say, despite those challenges, I did find great staff, many of whom, some of them are still there actually, and many of whom stayed with us for a while. But there was this constant churn of a portion of the staff, both the front desk staff on the operations side, as well as the therapists performing the services. So the profit margins were very narrow. It was something that, unless we could expand and grow rapidly, we were going to be just kind of getting by. So, and then came the challenge of when people would leave, especially unexpectedly, if they were front desk staff, it left me with a gaping hole in coverage, which meant that I had to then cover shifts. So instead of being the general manager and being more behind the scenes or being, the strategic person running the whole operation, I basically had to sit at the front desk, answer phones, book appointments, and make sure everything kept running smoothly. This is a picture of the team that I had just before we sold, and just very, very eclectic, wonderful group of human beings. They became like my family. So, we worked it all out. I had people doing double shifts sometimes. I did double shifts. There was, all kinds of all hands on deck energy. But the burnout really came in that I had to perform on every level. I had to be, the behind the scenes person. I had to be the one ordering the supplies. I had to make sure that the staffing coverage, we were always out there recruiting and replacing people as others moved on to other things. And it really took its toll on me. At the same time, I had a toddler and a baby at home. And one of the things I learned in hindsight is that there's a reason why a lot of franchisors are semi-retired. Most of them are not at, 30-something-year-olds trying to do this with small kids at home, because the work-life balance just isn't there. It's like running a restaurant. And that was something I never really wanted to sign up for. So in hindsight, realizing that the 7-day-a-week, 12-hour-a-day operation was not really conducive to being at a personal state of life where you're starting your family. So there was no work-life balance. I ate, slept, and drank in this business for 5 years straight. So that, that really took its toll. So basically, we got to a point where, we finally realized that my husband and I, that this was not sustainable. And I'll never forget the moment that I realized that was when I had lost two people, I think, on my front desk staff, which was like 50% of my staff. And I was there closing the studio at 10:30 at night, mopping the floor and cleaning the toilets, which I have no problem doing. And I took great pride in keeping this immaculate space. But I realized that my kids hadn't tucked them in several nights. And I couldn't remember the last time my husband and I went on a date or had any quality time together. And as much as I loved my team and I loved the people that we served and the mission of keeping people healthy and well, I couldn't sustain this and I needed to move on and do something different. And so I was there mopping the floor and literally crying at the same time. And then I came to this realization that we were going to have to sell. We were going to have to exit, and I was going to have to pivot yet again instead of doing what I originally thought, which was buying up all the franchises in the area and, trying to expand this and make a little empire for ourselves. So that was a big moment, but it proved to be very insightful and very cathartic because it then gave us the insight that we knew what we needed to do. So it took the better part of another 18 months after that realization to then go ahead and identify the right buyer, because we did talk to various people, various prospective buyers, and they, I wasn't going to just sell to anyone because I had put so much of my blood, sweat, tears, and our personal money into this that, we had to find the right person. In addition to that, I just want to make sure, is my sound coming through okay at this point? Looks like it is. I also wanted to make sure that whoever we sold to could work well with the landlord, because there were a lot of issues with the landlord as well. And that, in a nutshell, was that, halfway into the time that we were the owners, they sold the property to another real estate company, and they decided to take forth a major renovation on the plaza for the better part of a year, which meant that we had a 30% loss of volume and revenue, which then sent us into a place of we were operating at a loss. And that was all that, coupled with my emotional burnout, were the two key factors that made it clear that we couldn't sustain this, because we couldn't keep putting money into the business with no end in sight and no concessions from the real estate company. So, we were basically bleeding at that point financially. So we needed, to find the right buyer and sell and move on to something different. So that's sort of a synopsis of, what happened and what led to the decision to sell. It was a really hard day when I had to tell my staff that we were, going to sell. They were shocked. They had no idea. They, were devastated, because one of the things I pride myself on was I had a great rapport and relationship with each member of my staff. But I assured them that, we hadn't taken this decision lightly, and that we had looked literally long and hard for the right buyers. And we sold to a couple, a husband and wife, who were, their kids were grown and had left the house, and they had all the time in the world to spend and nurture this business and take it to the next level. So it ended up being the best decision for everyone. They were able to come in and invest a little bit more, make some improvements without suffering the pains that we did, because we were operating at a loss. And I was able to then move on and do some soul searching on what I wanted to do next, which I discovered was executive coaching.
Wow, that was absolutely amazing, Patty. And so one of the questions I'm dying to find out from you is, why did you dive into this in the first place, coming out of a secure corporate job? So we'll take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'd love you to let us know how that happened. Welcome back, everyone. You're watching So Victory Live with Shannon Malcolm Daniels and myself, Bridgetti Limbanda, and our amazing guest, Patty Franco.
Thank you.
I always get the pointing backwards.
It's all good.
And
Yeah.
I agree. I want to hear the answer to Bridgetti's question as well. As someone who's also taken that leap, gone from this very secure corporate environment. When I quit my job, I was making a very hefty six figures, and my parents are like, "What are you doing?" And I
Mhm.
actually did a TEDx on that whole experience and why I did it. But I would love to hear your why. I know you talked about the burnout and not being satisfied, but I'd love to delve into that deeper
Sure.
with you. Great question, Bridgetti.
Sure. I would
So,
say,
Patty, can
it
you
was a
tell us why did you give up a secure job? You had a salaried job, you were climbing the corporate ladder. Why did you make the shift?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned earlier, part of it was personal reasons. So I decided to take a pause on my corporate career at the time when my mom was becoming ill and she was in the hospital, and I wanted to be there for her. I didn't want to try to juggle the heavy demands of my corporate career and life and have it be subpar performance because I was distracted with a personal crisis. So, there was severance packages were being offered left and right. And quite transparently, I just said, you know what? You can put me on the list. It's, I needed a sabbatical, so to speak, from the corporate world. But I think what motivated and inspired me to go the entrepreneurial route and to be self-employed was that I had actually, while I was working my last corporate job, I had a side hustle in the cosmetics world, and I was selling and built and in a network marketing business for several years as a part-time source of income, which is how I paid off my debt, my student loans, and all of that on a more accelerated basis. And I loved the energy in that space and the mentoring and the coaching that I received and I was able to get to give to others and helping them start up their side businesses in this network marketing model. So that's what really inspired me to think broader than my corporate career track, because originally I thought, I'll be VP of HR or HRO one day, and that was my career path that I was shooting for. And then I really realized there's so many other options, and that I never saw myself as a marketing and salesperson until I tried my hand in the cosmetics world and built this book of business and had a serious side income from it. And I realized that, these are skills that you can develop. You're not born as a marketing and salesperson or a finance person necessarily. I no longer subscribe to any of those limiting beliefs. I really do believe that, and this is why I coach my clients so passionately, that, wherever their deficiencies are in their competencies and skills, it's a matter of time effort that you put into it. So I saw the light there, and I talked to my husband, and we decided that, again, the best use of my human resources background combined with my passion and my energy around the entrepreneurial realm, that we should then find something that would be long term. So the franchise world seemed like a good fit at the time.
Yeah. And anyone who's left corporate to start a business or just gone straight to starting a business has learned real quickly that you don't start a business and say, I'm just going to be a coach. No, you have to be sales. You have to be marketing. You have to learn how to manage a website. You have to learn to do all these other things. And as you grow, sure, you can hire and fill gaps in your talent and grow your business and all that. But you really learn everything soup to nuts. And it's one of my advisors told me when I first started down the road of in captive, they said, what you need to do and what you need to realize is that this is not just starting a business. Basically, think about it as an investment in your education as well, because you're getting an MBA through experience instead of in the classroom. And it really is true. And that's a little bit of what you talked about there, of having to learn it all, becoming a salesperson, a marketing person, running a business, understanding how a franchise works, employing people, everything from soup to nuts. And that's just really, really amazing that you were able to do all of that. You've talked a lot about the experience. Can you share some of the lessons that you learned, some really important lessons with our audience?
Sure, I gave that a lot of thought coming into this interview today, and I would put them into three categories. So I have lessons that I've learned on the biz side, the people side, and then the personal side. So I'll try to summarize because there's a lot. And as I was joking around yesterday, I could probably talk for hours about each of these buckets. But on the business side, I learned that you really have to deeply study the market conditions in your area. I was relying on advice from franchise owners or prospective of franchise owners when we were vetting this business before we decided to sign the agreement, from people across the country who knew nothing about the Westchester, New York market per se, and the shortage of staff that we would experience in this part of the country. So, doing a deeper analysis in many respects would have helped me at least go in with that awareness. So that was a blind spot. Understanding how to manage a P&L was a big lesson and a journey that we all go through, but really understanding how interesting, how big of a chunk the payroll piece comes out of your budget every month, and how important it is to protect that, and trying to balance paying people competitively with making sure that you're not overpaying them so that you then cannot take a profit for yourself. So I went through all the pain points of learning that just on my own without having done it academically through an MBA program. So there was all of that, negotiating with the landlord, making sure that you also spend money or invest money wisely in order to make more of it. So understanding where to invest market dollars and efforts and what strategies really yield results versus just are nice and bells and whistles. So, not just going after the next big, local marketing promotion or, signage here, signage there. I spent money on things that didn't come to fruition and realized, not to do that again. Then on the people side, I really learned how to connect with my staff and build that rapport as well as my clients. And I would say that, was the thing that served me the best in terms of pivoting into the coaching world right after, selling the franchise. And firing people a lot sooner and not trying to give them third, fourth chances was something that, that I really took away from the experience. And then lastly, on the personal side, I would sum it all up that even if I would have been making 20 times the amount of revenue from this business, which I didn't, it was a very small margin, nothing is worth your personal peace and happiness and balance at home. That we must protect that at all costs. I think even if it means, in my humble opinion, taking a step back or making a little bit less, I think, you only get to live this life once. And I think that, prioritizing the people you love the most and the quality time with them is super important.
I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. And that is something we all face on a daily basis, is prioritizing our time, because time is the one thing that we can't make more of and we can never get back and undo. So absolutely.
Goodness me. Patty, I want to ask you a really, really difficult question.
We like the
Can
hard
you,
questions.
I know. Can you nutshell, just one way in which your experience has made you a better coach, and one
Mm-hmm.
way in which your experience has made you better at life and giving you back your family again?
Sure. So it made me a much better coach because I had so many pain points and disappointments, along the way of running this franchise and keeping it afloat or trying to keep it afloat and trying to keep it profitable, that I feel like I have much deeper sense of appreciation for the pain points that my clients are going through, whether they are in-house corporate executives or running their own small businesses or medium or large size businesses. So I think I have that empathy, but also I have that firsthand experience, even if it was a different industry, which in most cases it was. I really can appreciate the hard decisions they have to make, and be able to listen on that deeper level and connect with them on that deeper level. And then I think, from a personal standpoint, it's, really realizing that, the thing that I loved the most from all of the jobs I've ever had was coaching, mentoring, and training. And when I finally gave myself permission to just focus on just that, that's when I started to thrive. Now I am surpassing the income that I was making in my last corporate job. It's taken me several years to get to that point. It didn't happen overnight, but it all has fallen into place. I have the marketing skills now. I understand how to manage, my operating budget. I know what to spend my time on and what not to, and not to get caught up in perfectionism and trying to have everything work just perfectly right. What to focus on. And I'm doing what I love. 80% of my time is spent coaching people and helping them be better and happier and more effective in what they love to do. And 20% is the admin and the other stuff and, marketing and the things that I, have to do and sometimes like and sometimes don't like. But 80% of my time now is doing what my superpower is, which is listening, coaching, helping people explore, helping people figure stuff out for themselves. And it's amazing when everything clicks. And I don't regret any of the decisions I've made or, the pain that I went through in running that business for 5 years, even though it was a tough time with my kids being little and having lost both my parents back to back. And, so much was going on. But it really, I can now see the purpose that it served me.
I have about 1,000,000 more questions for you.
Same here.
We are at our time. The good news is we get to move over to the post-show meet and greet, where we are going to keep the conversation going. We're going to invite all of our audience members, that's you out there, to join us for that post-show meet and greet, where you can pop on camera, you can chat with Patty and us live, and we can get all those burning questions answered, or just have a conversation around, avoiding that burnout, following your heart, knowing what your intuition is, and being able to fail forward, learn from your failures, and use them to be successful.
Absolutely. I can't wait to jump into the meet and greet. So everyone who's watching us live today on whichever platform, whether you're watching us on the Captive platform or over on YouTube, join us in the meet and greet. We're going to jump over there for a little bit more intimate conversation. Patty, thank you so much. We'll see you soon for the meet and greet.
You're
And
welcome.
thanks everyone for joining us live today.
Bye. All right.
Before that final goodbye, we've got a surprise. We've got a special offer for people who are watching live right now. You want to tell us what that is?
What was
I'm
that?
sorry, can you repeat that?
You said you've got a special offer for everyone watching us live today. Do you want to tell us what that is very quickly?
Ooh, I love special offers.
Yes. So I love to make myself available to just explore with new people. So what I'd like to offer today is anyone who would like to have a 30-minute complimentary coaching session. I call it a laser coaching session, where we do a quick get to know you, what's your challenge, what has you stuck, and then I coach you for 20 solid minutes on helping you totally flip that around in your mind. So going from something you're stuck about, where it's getting in your way, preventing you taking action and moving forward or being more effective, to having a completely different view and a different way forward by the end of the conversation.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, Patty. And for those of you who are considering this, or maybe are a little fearful of stepping forward into something like this, stepping into coaching with someone is not a sign that you are failing or that there's something wrong. It's a sign of strength and knowing that you have an opportunity to grow and improve. So I highly encourage anyone out there that's listening today to take advantage of Patty's offer. I'll be signing up.
Me too. See you over in the meet and greet, everyone.